Orphan girl finds abandoned military truck, and the hidden secret there changes her life. Olivia Carter, 8 years old, was walking alone behind the municipal shelter Our Lady of Hope in Springfield, Illinois. Having been there for 3 years, ever since she lost her parents in a highway accident, she carried in her chest a pain only known by those never chosen for adoption. That's when she saw something strange among the trees. A piece of dark green metal caught her attention. Curious, she approached and discovered an old military truck covered by branches and dry leaves. What could be inside here? She murmured to herself, pushing the rusty door. The creak echoed through the silent woods. Olivia climbed into the driver's seat and smelled mold and lost time, but it was when she opened the dashboard compartment that her heart raced. Dozens of yellowed letters were there, all addressed to children from the shelter. She picked one up with trembling hands and read the name on the front. It was for Ethan Mitchell, who lived at the shelter years ago. Dear Ethan, I promise that when I return from military service, I will come get you, so we can be a real family. Wait for me. With affection, Sergeant David Harrison, she read in a low voice. The letters were from 20 years ago, all signed by the same man, all with promises to return, to form a family, to give love. Olivia felt her eyes fill with tears. Someone had promised love to children like her but never came back. It was as if her own story was there, written on yellowed paper. Suddenly, she heard footsteps approaching. She quickly put some letters in her pocket and got out of the truck, pretending she was just playing in the woods. "Olivia, what are you doing here?" shouted Dorothy, one of the caregivers. "I was just exploring, Aunt Dorothy." "Come inside, it's snack time." All afternoon, Olivia couldn't stop thinking about the letters. After dinner, when everyone went to sleep, she took the papers from under her pillow and read them again by the light of a small flashlight. In one of the letters, there was a photo. A young man in uniform, smiling next to several children in front of the shelter. Olivia recognized the building, but something left her even more intrigued. One of the girls in the photo looked exactly like Director Patricia. Exactly alike, only much younger. Dear listener, if you are enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we are just starting out. Now continuing. "This can't be," she whispered, comparing the child's face in the photo with the director she knew. Patricia Wilson had taken over the shelter exactly 20 years ago. She had never mentioned having lived there before. She always said she came from another state to work with orphaned children. The next morning, during breakfast, Olivia watched the director with new eyes. The small nose, the dark eyes, the shape of the face, it was her in the photo, she was sure. "Director Patricia," she called timidly. "What is it, my dear?" "Did you know this shelter before you came to work here?" Patricia hesitated for a moment, nervously fidgeting with the necklace she always wore. "No, Olivia, why do you ask?" It seems like you know every corner of this place by heart." "It's because I've worked here a long time, my child." But Olivia noticed something strange. The director had lied. Her eyes shifted. Her voice became different. It was like when she herself lied about breaking something. That afternoon, taking advantage of Patricia being in a meeting, she spoke with Mrs. Margaret, the cook who had worked there for more than 30 years. "Mrs. Margaret, has the director always worked here?" What a strange question, girl. Patricia arrived here about 20 years ago. She showed up as a young woman, with a teaching degree in hand, saying she wanted to help orphaned children. And before her, who ran the shelter? It was Mr. George, a very good man, but he retired when Patricia arrived. It was even a coincidence, because that very year the shelter was in need of someone new. Olivia felt her heart race. There was no coincidence there. Something bigger was happening. That night, she returned to the military truck. This time she searched more carefully. She found military documents inside a plastic folder. The name was clear: Sergeant David Harrison Wilson. There was a map with markings, and one last letter, incomplete. "Dear Patricia, I know I promised to return in 6 months, but something happened during training. I'm in the hospital and I don't know when I'll be able to—" The letter ended there. It wasn't signed. Olivia ran back to the shelter. Patricia. Could that be Director Patricia's real name? The next day, during lunch, a family interested in adoption arrived. The Johnsons seemed kind and had already spoken with Olivia a few times on the phone. "We'd like to get to know Olivia better," Mrs. Johnson said to Patricia. "Well, I need to be honest with you," the director replied in a serious tone. "Olivia is a difficult child, very curious, sometimes disobedient. Perhaps you should consider one of the younger children." Olivia felt her world collapse. It was the third family that left after talking to the director. Always the same excuse. "I'm not difficult," she murmured, but no one heard her. Observing more closely, she noticed that Patricia always discouraged families interested in older children. Only babies and very young children managed to get adopted. It was as if she didn't want the grown children to find families. That night, Olivia returned to the truck and studied the military map more closely. There were two important markings, one exactly where the shelter was built, and another at a rural property a few kilometers away. "I need to find out what's in that place," she decided. The following week, there was a school trip to an educational farm in the region. Olivia asked to go to the bathroom and took the chance to run off in the direction of the property marked on the map. It was a small wooden house with a vegetable garden in the back. An elderly woman was watering the plants. "Excuse me, ma'am," called Olivia. "Hello, dear, are you lost?" "No, ma'am, I wanted to ask about a person. Do you know someone named David Harrison?" The old woman's face changed completely. "David? My grandson. It's been so long since I've heard that name. Can I talk to you about him?" The woman, who introduced herself as Mrs. Eleanor, invited Olivia inside. The house was simple but cozy. "David was my youngest grandson, a boy with a huge heart. When he went to do his military service, he got to know the shelter during some volunteer work. What happened to him? He fell in love with a little girl from there. He said that when he finished his service, he would adopt her and start a family. He became obsessed with the idea." Olivia showed the letters she had taken from the truck. Mrs. Eleanor began to cry. "Where did you find these?" "In a military truck in the woods behind the shelter." "My God! David left those letters there. He wanted to make sure the children would receive them, but then the accident happened." "What accident?" "During a military training exercise. He fell from an overpass and was hospitalized for months. When he got better and returned to the shelter, the girl he wanted to adopt had run away." "Run away?" "Patricia. She was a smart girl, about 10 years old. David talked about her all the time. But when he came back from the hospital, she had disappeared. No one knew where she was." Olivia felt the air leave her lungs. Patricia, the same name from the unfinished letter. "Mrs. Eleanor, what was this Patricia like?" "Brown hair, dark eyes, very intelligent. David showed me photos of her. He always said she was special." "Do you still have those photos?" Mrs. Eleanor went to an old trunk and brought out an album. On the yellowed pages, Olivia saw several photos of her grandson in uniform, and in some of them, the same girl she had recognized in the letters. It was Director Patricia as a child, without a doubt. "What happened to your grandson after that?" "He never accepted it. He searched for the girl for years, but never found her. Today he lives in the neighboring town, works as a carpenter. He never married, never had children. I think he never got over the loss." Olivia left Mrs. Eleanor's house with her mind racing. Now everything made sense. Patricia was Patricia. She had run away from the shelter 20 years ago, when David didn't show up as promised. But why had she come back? And why was she sabotaging the adoptions? Back at the shelter, Olivia pretended she had just gotten lost on the walk. But she spent the rest of the day watching Patricia's every move. During dinner, she decided to risk a question. "Director, why do older children almost never get adopted?" Patricia stopped eating and stared at her. "What do you mean by that, Olivia?" "It's just that I've noticed families arrive interested in us, but then they leave, always with the same excuse. Older children are harder to adapt. It's normal for families to prefer babies." "But what if the older child is good? If she promises to be obedient?" Patricia stood up abruptly from the table. "Olivia, you've been asking too many questions. Go to your room." That night, Olivia couldn't sleep. She needed to confront Patricia. but how to do it without her denying everything. Then she had an idea. She went back to the truck and got the photo where she appeared with David. She put it in her pocket and waited for the right moment. The next day, during lunch, when they were the only two in the director's office, Olivia took the photo from her pocket. "Director, I found this in the woods. Can you explain this to me?" Patricia looked at the photo, and her face turned white as a sheet. Her hands began to tremble. Where did you find this?" "In an abandoned military truck, along with several letters for a girl named Patricia." "You shouldn't be poking around where you weren't invited," said Patricia, but her voice was different. "Why did you lie about not having lived here?" Patricia stood up and locked the office door. She came back and sat down heavily in the chair. "What else did you find in that truck?" "Love letters, promises, a man who said he would come back to adopt a girl, but he never came back, did he?" Patricia began to cry. She was no longer the confident director Olivia knew. She was a broken woman with old wounds still open. "You don't understand anything, girl." "Then explain it to me. Explain to me why Patricia ran away. Explain to me why Director Patricia came back. And explain to me why the children here never get adopted." "Because adoption is a lie," shouted Patricia, losing control. "Because adults promise love and then abandon you. Because it's better to stay here, safe, than to believe in false promises." "But David didn't abandon you, he got sick." "How do you know his name?" "Because I read the letters. Because I talked to his grandmother. Because I discovered the truth you've been hiding for 20 years. Patricia stopped crying and looked at Olivia with a mixture of fear and admiration. "You talked to Mrs. Eleanor?" "I did. She told me about the accident, about the months in the hospital, about how he searched for you for years." He searched for me. He did. And you know what else? He never married, he never had children, because he never forgot the Patricia he wanted to adopt." Patricia broke down in tears again. This time she cried like a child, like the child she had been 20 years ago. "I waited for months," she whispered between sobs. "He had promised he would be back in 6 months, but the months passed and nothing. So I thought he had forgotten me." "Why did you run away?" "Because it hurt too much to keep waiting. Because I believed he would come back, but the other boys laughed at me. They said adults never really come back, that promises are just talk." "And how did you manage to become the director here?" "I lived on the streets for years, but I never stopped studying. I managed to finish high school, then I studied education. When I found out the shelter needed a new director, I applied." "Why?" "To protect the children, so they wouldn't go through the same disappointment I did. But you're doing the opposite. You're preventing them from finding families. Because families leave, because love ends, because it's better not to hope than to be abandoned." Olivia approached Patricia and took her hand. "Director, what if you're wrong? What if David still wants to find Patricia?" "Don't be foolish, Olivia. 20 years have passed. Mrs. Eleanor said he never forgot, that he still lives nearby, that he never started a family because he couldn't get over the loss." "You're making this up." "I'm not, and if you want, I can prove it." Patricia was silent for long minutes. Finally, she stood up and went to the window. "Even if it's true, even if he really did get sick, it doesn't change anything. I built my whole life based on the certainty that he abandoned me. But now you know it wasn't abandonment. So what? I can't go back in time. I can't undo 20 years of decisions. You can start over. You can stop sabotaging the adoptions. You can let other children have the chance you never had." "You don't understand, Olivia. I protect you all from getting hurt. You hurt us by stopping us from trying. I want to be adopted. I want to have a family. Even if it goes wrong, I want to try." Patricia turned to her with red eyes. "And what if it does go wrong? What if they send you back? What if they hurt you? And what if it goes right? What if I'm happy? What if I find real love?" Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. The two looked at each other in silence. It was as if 20 years of pain were there, between them, waiting to be healed. "Olivia, do you really want me to look for David?" "Yes. You deserve to know the full truth, and he deserves to know that Patricia is okay." I don't know if I have the courage. I'll go with you. We can ask Mrs. Eleanor for help. Patricia thought for a long time. Finally, she nodded. All right, but if this goes wrong, you'll understand why I protect you all. It's a deal. The next day, Patricia took time off from the shelter for the first time in years. Together with Olivia, they went to Mrs. Eleanor's house. The elderly woman was shocked to see Patricia. Good heavens, Patricia, you've grown so much. Hello, Mrs. Eleanor. David will go crazy when he finds out you showed up. He was talking about you just last month. Last month? Yes, my dear. He visits me every Sunday. He always asks if I've had any news of you. Patricia sat down heavily in the chair. 20 years imagining she had been forgotten, when in fact she was still remembered every week. Where does he live, Mrs. Eleanor? In the neighboring town, Bloomington. He works at a woodworking shop downtown. Do you want me to call him? I don't know if I'm ready. He is ready, said Mrs. Eleanor firmly. He's been ready for 20 years. Olivia held Patricia's hand. We came this far, Director. You can't give up now. All right. Call him, Mrs. Eleanor, but don't tell him it's me. Just say you have a surprise. Mrs. Eleanor dialed the number with trembling hands. On the other end, a man's voice answered, David, it's Grandma. Can you come to my house now? I have a surprise for you. Did something happen, Grandma? Nothing bad, my dear grandson. Just come. And come quickly. Half an hour later, a car parked in front of the house. A man of about 45 got out, with greying hair and hands calloused from much work. When he knocked on the door and entered, he saw Mrs. Eleanor smiling and Olivia standing next to a woman with her back turned. Grandma, what is this surprise? The woman turned slowly. David stopped in the middle of the room as if he had been shocked. Anna, Patricia? Hi, David. They looked at each other for long seconds. 20 years of longing, of unanswered questions, of interrupted love. Are you okay? He asked, his voice choked. I am. And you? I looked for you. For years I looked. I know. Your grandmother told me. Why did you run away? I had promised I would come back. You didn't come back when you promised. I thought you had forgotten me. Forgotten you? Patricia, I could never forget you. Not for a single day. David approached slowly, as if she might disappear at any moment. I had an accident during military training. I spent months in the hospital. When I managed to get back to the shelter, you had vanished. I didn't know about the accident. How could you have known? You were a child. I should have sent word. It wasn't your fault, nor yours. They embraced right there, crying as if they were still that 10-year-old child and that 25-year-old soldier who met 20 years ago. Olivia watched everything with shining eyes. Finally, a love story that worked out, even if belatedly. Patricia, what have you been doing all these years? Asked David when they separated. I studied. I graduated in education. I became the director of the shelter. The same shelter where we met? The same one. I thought I was protecting the children. I prevented them from being adopted so they wouldn't go through the same disappointment I did. David looked at her with sadness. You've been preventing adoptions? I have, but now I understand I was wrong. Why do you understand? Olivia approached. Because I showed her it's worth trying, that even when it hurts, it's worth believing in love. David looked at the girl with affection. And you are? Olivia Carter. I'm the one who found the letters in the truck. I'm the one who discovered the truth about Patricia. You are very brave, Olivia. I just want a family, and I want other children to have that chance too. David turned to Patricia. Patricia, can you undo what you did? Can you start allowing adoptions again? I can, and I will. I promise I'll do things differently. What about us? He asked hesitantly. I don't know. 20 years have passed. We are different people. But what I feel for you is still the same. David, you don't have to answer now, but let me try. Let me prove that this time I won't disappear. Patricia looked at Olivia, who nodded encouragingly. All right, we can try. Slowly. Slowly, he agreed. The following week, Patricia called back the Johnsons, who had shown interest in adopting Olivia. "We would like to talk again about Olivia," she said. "But didn't you say she was difficult?" "I was wrong. Olivia is a special girl, brave, smart, determined. Any family would be lucky to have her." The couple was surprised by the director's change in attitude. "Can we get to know her better?" "Of course. Olivia, come here." During the conversation, Olivia told them about her discovery of the letters, about how she helped the director find her past, about her determination to uncover the truth. "What an amazing girl," said Mr. Johnson. "We would very much like to adopt her," his wife added. For the first time in a long while, Patricia smiled genuinely. "Then let's start the paperwork." Meanwhile, David began volunteering at the shelter. He brought other former military personnel to develop activities with the children. Little by little, Patricia began to open herself up to love again. They would talk for hours about the 20 lost years. He told her about the jobs he had taken, about the times he had almost given up searching for her. She told him about the years on the streets, about the struggle to study, about the pain she had carried for so long. "Patricia, can I ask you a question?" he said one afternoon. "Of course. Why did you change your name to Patricia?" "Because Patricia was the girl who believed in promises. Patricia was the woman who no longer believed. And now, are you Patricia or Patricia?" "I think I'm both, the girl who loved and the woman who learned to protect herself." "Can I call you Patricia?" "You may. With you, I will always be Patricia." 2 months later, Olivia was officially adopted by the Johnsons. On the day she left the shelter, she had a private conversation with Patricia. "Director, thank you for changing, for letting me find a family. Thank you, Olivia, for showing me I was wrong, for giving me back David. Are you going to get married?" "Who knows? We're getting to know each other again. 20 years changed us." "But is the love still the same?" Love even grew, because now it's a grown-up love that knows the value of what it has." Olivia smiled. "Can I come visit you?" "Whenever you want. You are part of our story." "And the other children? Will they have a chance to be adopted?" "All of them, I promise." Olivia moved to her new home with the Johnsons. It was everything she had dreamed of: her own room, toys, affection, family. But she did not forget the shelter. Every week she returned to visit the other children, telling her story, giving hope. The military truck was renovated by David and turned into a mobile library that traveled to the poorest neighborhoods of the city. The original letters were framed and displayed in the shelter as proof that promises can be kept, even if delayed. Patricia completely changed her way of working. She began actively promoting meetings between children and families. Within 6 months, 15 children found permanent homes. She and David dated for a year before marrying in a simple ceremony in the shelter's chapel. Olivia was the maid of honor. "Uncle David," she said during the celebration. "Hi, Olivia. Thank you for teaching me that true love never gives up. Thank you for discovering our story, for giving us a second chance. Actually, it was a first chance. You never had the opportunity to live this love when you were young." David smiled and hugged her. "You're right, this is our first chance to be happy together." Patricia approached the two. "Olivia, there's something I want to give you." She took off the necklace she always wore from her neck. It was a small gold heart. "This necklace was the last thing my mother gave me before she passed. I want you to have it, as a reminder that love always finds a way." "I can't accept this, Director. It's too special." "That's exactly why I want to give it to you. You taught me that love isn't just about receiving, it's also about giving, and I want to give this to the girl who saved my life." Olivia accepted the necklace with tears in her eyes. Years passed. Olivia grew up in a loving family, graduated in psychology, and returned to work at the Our Lady of Hope shelter. Patricia and David had 2 children and started a foundation to help orphan children throughout the region. The shelter became a national reference for successful adoption. The mobile library truck became a tradition in the city. Every Saturday, David drove through the poorest streets, bringing books and stories to the children. And Olivia? Olivia became the person responsible for telling every child who arrived at the shelter The story of the military truck, the forgotten letters, and the love that waited 20 years to be fulfilled. "What did you learn from this story?" she would ask the little ones. "That we should never give up on finding a family," a child would always answer. "And that sometimes love takes time, but it always arrives," another would add. Exactly. And do you know why this story is special? Why? Because it proves that each one of you has a family waiting. Sometimes it's close, sometimes it's far away, but it's waiting. And so, one afternoon, Olivia was telling the story when she saw through the window a young couple approaching the shelter. They carried papers in their hands and hopeful smiles on their faces. "Children," she said, smiling, "I think someone here is going to get a family today." The children ran to the window, eager, and outside the old military truck was parked, as if waiting to witness another love story being written. Because that's what the truck represented now. Not abandonment, not broken promises, but proof that true love always finds a way back home. And every time a child found a family, Olivia felt the golden heart around her neck beat stronger, reminding her that she had been the beginning of it all. The curious girl who didn't give up on discovering the truth. The girl who proved that sometimes, to find your own family, you first need to help others rediscover lost love. Dear listener, if you are enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot, as we are just starting out, now continuing. Many years later, when Olivia was already a mature woman of 35, married with children of her own, she still returned to the shelter to tell stories. On one of those afternoons, an 8-year-old girl who resembled her at the age when she found the truck approached timidly. "Aunt Olivia, is that story really true?" "It's true, my dear. Why do you ask?" "Because I also want to find a family. But sometimes it seems like my turn will never come." Olivia knelt down to the girl's height and held her small hands. "What's your name?" "Emily." "Emily, do you want to know a secret?" The girl nodded with shining eyes. "You know the couple that arrived here this morning? They came especially to meet you." "To meet me?" "Yes, they heard about a very special girl named Emily and wanted to know more about her." "But I'm not special." "Yes, you are. Want to know why? Because you have the same courage I had when I found those letters, the same desire to discover if love exists. What if they don't like me? What if they do? What if you are exactly the daughter they were looking for?" Emily smiled for the first time since she had arrived at the shelter 2 years before. "Aunt Olivia, can you stay with me when I talk to them?" "Of course I can. And you know what else I can do?" "What?" "I can show you the original letters I found in the truck, so you can see that love stories really do exist." They went to the room where the letters were displayed. Emily read each one carefully, touching the glass of the frame with reverence. "Aunt Olivia, what happened to the other children from the letters? The ones who weren't adopted by Uncle David?" "That's a good question. Do you want to know?" "I do." Uncle David searched for each one of them. Some already had families, others had grown up and built their own lives, but he made a point of finding them all to explain why he hadn't kept the promises back then. And did they forgive him? All of them. Because they understood that sometimes life prevents us from doing what we want, but that doesn't mean the love wasn't true. And will I forgive my real parents for abandoning me? Olivia felt her heart tighten. Emily had been left at the shelter's door as a baby, with no explanation. "Emily, you don't have to forgive anyone right now. You just need to be open to receiving the love that is coming." "How do you know it's coming?" "Because I felt the same thing the day I met my adoptive parents. A feeling in my chest, as if the heart knew before the head." "I am feeling that. Then it's time to meet your family." The following afternoon, Emily met the Wilson couple. He was a history professor, she a pediatrician. They had been trying to have biological children for years, but after much suffering, they decided to adopt. "Emily, can we ask you a few questions?" asked Dr. Wilson. "You may." "What do you like to do most?" "I like to read and to discover things. Aunt Olivia says I'm as curious as a detective." Professor Wilson smiled. "Interesting coincidence. I love mystery stories. Do you think you'd like to read some with me?" I'd like that very much. And you, Emily? Asked Dr. Wilson. Do you have any questions for us? I do. Will you send me back if I do something wrong? The couple looked at each other with tenderness. Emily, family isn't something you send back. It's something you build every day with love, patience, and care. We all make mistakes, but that doesn't mean we stop loving each other. Even if I break something, even if you break something, even if I get a bad grade in school, even if you get a bad grade in school, we'll help you improve, but we'll never stop loving you. Emily turned to Olivia. Aunt Olivia, I think it's true. I think my family has arrived. I think so too, my dear. 3 months later, Emily was officially adopted. At the shelter's farewell party, Patricia, now 65 with white hair, gave an emotional speech. Children, you have just witnessed another love story that worked out. Emily found her family, just as Olivia found hers so many years ago. Aunt Patricia, shouted a 5-year-old boy, when will it be my turn? Soon, my dear. Your family is on the way. How do you know? Because I've learned that love always finds a way. Sometimes it takes time, sometimes it takes unexpected paths, but it always finds it. David, now with completely white hair but eyes still full of life, approached his wife. Anna, do you remember what you promised me the day we reunited? I remember. That I would do things differently, that I would allow the children to find families. Do you know how many children have found families because of your change? How many? 247. Patricia was moved. 247 lives changed because a brave 8-year-old girl decided to search for the truth in an abandoned truck. And because a brave director decided to change her way of seeing the world. And because a brave soldier never gave up searching for the love of his life. Olivia approached the two. And because you taught me that family isn't just blood. It's choice. It's care. It's love that renews itself every day. Olivia, said Patricia, you know that without you none of this would have happened, right? I know. But I also know that without you, I would never have learned what a real family means. And now, what will you teach your children about family? That family is where you choose to plant love, and that sometimes to find your own family, you need to help other people find theirs. That night, after everyone had left, Olivia stayed alone in the shelter for a few minutes. She walked to the back and looked at where the military truck had been so many years ago. The place was now a beautiful garden, with flowers and a bench where children liked to sit and read. But she could still see in her memory that abandoned vehicle that changed so many lives. Thank you, she whispered to the wind. Thank you for keeping those letters for so long, for waiting for the right person to find them. As if the shelter itself heard her, a gentle breeze swayed the garden flowers. Olivia smiled, touched the golden heart necklace at her throat, and left, knowing that the next day other love stories would begin to be written there. Because that's what the Our Lady of Hope shelter had become. Not a place where children waited for families, but a place where families found each other. And it had all started with a curious girl, an abandoned truck, and yellowed letters that proved true love never has an expiration date. Years later, when Emily was already a 16-year-old teenager, she sought out Olivia with a special question. Aunt Olivia, I want to study psychology like you, and I want to work with orphaned children. Why, Emily? Because I want to be for other children what you were for me. Someone who believes every child deserves a family. And you believe that? I do. Because I lived it. Because I know it's possible. Olivia hugged Emily with tears in her eyes. You know this means our story will continue. How will it continue, Aunt? Because when you start working here, you'll find other children who need to believe in love, and you'll tell them the story of the girl who found a military truck and discovered that love always finds a way. And when those children grow up, they'll tell other children, and so our story will pass from generation to generation. Like a chain of love? Exactly like a chain of love. Emily smiled. Aunt Olivia, can I confess something to you? Of course. Sometimes I dream about that military truck, as if it were still there, guarding secrets that can change lives. And you know what I think? What? That maybe it still is there. Not physically, but in spirit. Whenever a child needs hope, it appears in some way. How so? Sometimes it's a forgotten letter in a drawer. Sometimes it's a photo that falls from a book. Sometimes it's a conversation that happens at the right time. The truck was just a symbol. What mattered were the love stories it guarded. And do those stories keep happening? Every day, Emily. Every day a child finds a family. Every day someone chooses to love. Every day a new story begins. Emily looked out the window at the garden where the truck used to be. You know what I want to do when I start working here. What? I want to create a project where older children help younger ones believe in family, like you helped me. What a beautiful idea. And I want to call it Project Truck, in honor of what started it all. Emily, I'm sure your adoptive parents are very proud of you. And I'm sure my birth parents, wherever they are proud too, because even by abandoning me, they put me in a place where I would find true love. Have you forgiven them? I have. Because I understood that sometimes people do what they think is best, even when it seems wrong to others. How did you learn that? From Aunt Patricia's story. She was also abandoned, but now she understands her parents probably couldn't take care of her. And that abandonment led her to the path that made her find Uncle David. Olivia was impressed with Emily's maturity. You've truly understood the most important lesson of our whole story. What is it? That sometimes God writes straight with crooked lines, that something that seems bad at first can be the start of something very beautiful. Like how my abandonment led me to my true parents. Exactly. And how your loss of your biological parents led you to the shelter where you found your life's mission. That's right. So our pain always has a purpose. Our pain can always have a purpose if we let it teach us instead of destroy us. Emily hugged Olivia once more. Thank you for teaching me that family is who loves you, not who gives birth to you. Thank you for reminding me every day why I chose this profession. That afternoon, the two walked together through the shelter. In the hallways, pictures of all the children who had been adopted over the years. 247 pictures of smiles, of happy families, of love that worked out. In the center of all the pictures, in a special frame, the first photo, Olivia on the day of her adoption, hugging her parents, holding in her hands the letters she had found in the military truck. Aunt Olivia, do you think one day we'll find more letters, more secrets that can change lives? Emily, I'm sure we will, because the world is full of love stories waiting to be discovered. It's full of people who need a second chance, children who need families, adults who need to rediscover what it means to love. And our job is to help connect those people. Our job is to believe that love always finds a way, and to be the instrument God uses to make those connections happen. Like you were the instrument that connected Aunt Patricia and Uncle David. Like I was the instrument that connected you to your parents. Like you will be the instrument that connects other children to their families. Emily stopped in front of the picture of the letters. Aunt Olivia, can I make a promise? Of course. I promise I will take care of this story, that I will tell it to every child who comes through here, so they never give up believing in love. And I promise I will always be here to help you keep that promise. Forever, forever. The two left the shelter holding hands, walking toward the sunset that painted the sky of Springfield with golden hues. Behind them, the Our Lady of Hope shelter continued its mission. Inside, 15 children ate dinner, played, dreamed of their future families. And somewhere in the city, 15 families also dreamed of finding the children missing from their lives. Because that's what the military truck had taught them all, that love is a mystery that resolves when two people willing to love meet at the right moment. And that sometimes, for that meeting to happen, it takes a brave 8-year-old girl who isn't afraid to poke her nose where she wasn't invited, to ask hard questions, and to discover truths that can change the world. Olivia smiled, touched the heart necklace on her neck once more, and thought about how her life had been shaped by that afternoon when she decided to follow her curiosity to an abandoned truck. A decision that changed not only her life, but the lives of hundreds of people. A decision that proved that sometimes, to find our own happy ending, we first need to help others find theirs. And that love, when it's true, never has an expiration date. It can take 20 years, it can go through 1,000 obstacles, but it always finds a way back home. End of story. Now tell me what you thought of this moving story. Do you think Olivia made the right choice investigating the mystery of the truck? And Patricia, do you think she was right to protect the children from the disappointments of adoption? Leave your honest opinion in the comments. Don't forget to give it a like if the story touched your heart, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that will move you.